whose day will come, and the scoundrel who's going to face God's judgment. And if we're going to make a difference in this world, we need to be noble persons. Now, secondly, if we're going to make a difference in the world, we need to be making some noble plans. It's not good enough just to be noble people. We have to be people that are also reaching out. Here's part of the problem. If we don't know where we're headed, we won't know if we get there. Mark Scott, who is the academic dean down at Ozark Christian College, has a little book that he's written. And one of the things that I like about it in that book is his use of vision problems to describe some of our problems. And so in his analysis of the church, he talks about those churches that are farsighted, where we're spending so much energy and concentration on the future that we miss the realities and opportunities of the present situation. This is a problem when you hear people saying, well, when we get everything just right. You hear young couples say, well, when we get everything established, then we'll start a family. How many of you that have family, how many of you had everything in perfect order before that first child came? Yeah. See, we can't concentrate and focus on having everything so right for the future that we forget about where we're at in the present. And there are also those, he says, that have tunnel vision. Tunnel vision is where we're so focused on our situation, our issues, and our agendas that we miss out on what's happening around us. And we create a fortress mentality. And so we lose sight of what are the needs of the community. For example, who is in need of a food basket for Thanksgiving? Do we even know? There are those that are nearsighted, where we focus so much on the daily stuff and the issues at hand that we lose sight of where we're headed. We're living with our heads down. Where do we want to be 10 years from now? 5 years from now? A year from now? Folks, look around. If we don't start thinking and planning for the future, how many churches are within 20 miles of our church today that have either shut their doors or are on the verge of it or need to? Because they're down to only a handful of people striving and struggling. Where do we want to be a year from now? 5 years from now? He talks about the wall-eyed. While watching the culture and trends, they get so caught up in the latest and the greatest that they really don't give much thought to their own specific situation. We experienced that when I was a teenager, and some of you will remember this and other things like it. One church came to our church that had a puppet team. Wow, that was neat. It really was. Watching them put on a play with those puppets. So we decided we needed to have a puppet team. A little bit of enthusiasm at first, but it just wasn't something that was there. Our church in Louisville, Kentucky had a bell choir. It was beautiful. They enjoyed it. They practiced. There was about 8 or 10 ladies that each had 2 bells. Have you ever seen or heard one of those? They'd play a song. I saw another church that tried to do that, and at first it started good. But I went back one Sunday and there were like 3 ladies rushing back and forth trying to play all the bells because they had lost interest of some of the other people. That's when you're wall-eyed. You just see everything that's going on. Or maybe you heard about a book, The Purpose-Driven. Do you know how many churches across the country tried to do purpose-driven programs? And it doesn't fit every congregation. And there's the lazy-eyed. It's where we really have great vision, but we just don't have the commitment to move beyond just being mediocre. Here's my question. Do we want to make a difference? And if we want to make a difference, are we willing to commit ourselves to do some serious planning? Are we really committed to saving the lost that are around us? Or are we more concerned on just making sure we get into heaven? What plans do we really have for the present and for the future? And I'm not talking about dreams. I'm talking about realistic plans. I have some dreams. I have some dreams that 5 years from now I will still be here with you all as your preaching and teaching elder. But that somehow in that process there will be an opportunity for me to rely less upon you to support me, so that we can hire somebody else to come in and join us to work specifically with our young people and our youth leaders and our Sunday school programs. That's a dream I have. Now, in order to get that dream into reality, I've got to start doing some things in terms of planning. And a part of this planning process has been my going back to earn my doctorate. Not to leave here, never intended to leave here by getting my doctorate. But by getting it so that maybe I can do some writing and maybe I can do a little bit of a seminar here and there, and somehow I can lessen your task of supporting our family so that we can grow in other areas. If we want to make a difference, we need to have some noble plans. Thirdly and finally, if we want to make a difference, we have to be doing some noble deeds. You see, nobility is defined by service. In recent history, we only need to examine the vast difference in the lives of Mother Teresa and Princess Diana. There's no evidence in the Bible to suggest that discipling, nurturing, and caring for the people already in the church and doing whatever's necessary to reach lost people outside the church are mutually exclusive. We can and we should be doing both. But the problem is that the church hasn't traditionally thought in that way. We have focused on ways to serve our members. A serve us model instead of a model of service. But it really needs to be both. We need to love God with the totality of our beings and join together as often as we can. And I'm not just talking Sunday morning. I'm not just talking Sunday night or even Wednesday night. Go back and read Acts chapter 2. They were meeting together on a daily basis, having meals with one another, and fellowshipping and praising God. We need to be loving God with the totality of our beings. But we also need to be helping others to do so. And we need to be loving our neighbors as ourselves. We're to be doing some noble deeds. Jesse and I had the opportunity this week to go down to Lincoln Monday and Tuesday for the ministers' retreat. I had a young man come up to me while we were there. Michael, I wrote his name down. I want to share with you what he told Jesse and I. He's from Martinsville, Illinois. He said, "You're Chauncey Latimer." Yes. he heard somebody say hi. He said, I knew your sister and your father in Louisville, Kentucky. He said, so it caught my eye when I read in the Standard. Remember the Christian Standard that had the little article in the Buzz about our Time In program? He said, it caught my eye when I read in the Standard about that program and saw your name and I know your family. And he said, I want you to know that because of what your church is doing, our church started an afternoon school program on Tuesday afternoons called Kids Club. Don't think that just because we're a congregation of about 60 to 65 worshiping, that what we do won't make a difference. Now let me tell you about another conversation that broke my heart. We were sitting at the table and talking about it, and the topic of doing the house came up from one of the other ministers in the area that said he had driven by there and, boy, that house looks good. And somebody said, what's that? And I told him about it. And one of the other ministers at the table said, oh, we've done a lot of service activities, and I can't think of one person that was added to the church. Why do we do our acts of love?
So we get something in return? No.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
No. We do our acts of love and our acts of service because God has called us to do that. Our responsibility isn't the harvest. Our responsibility is the planting of seeds, showing love, doing deeds of kindness. To be obedient. To love our neighbors as we love ourselves. So where are we headed? There's a Chinese proverb that reads, if we keep heading in the same direction, we're likely to get where we're headed. But is that where we want to end up? Join with me in praying that God will reveal to us where He wants us to head. That God will reveal to us areas of service where we can be doing some noble deeds. That God will assist us and determine our steps once we give to Him our noble plans. Join with me and let's pray. Stand, please. We stand before you today, Father, as a congregation of those that you have called out. Many of us have responded to that call by giving you our lives, by repenting and confessing before men, and being baptized, rising to walk as new creatures. And so today, we stand here before you asking you to reveal to us your plan for us as a congregation. Where do you want us to be, Father, a year from now? What is it that you want us to do? Open our eyes to ways that we can serve you in our community. Not just ways that we can serve ourselves.